Catherine, Nili, my friends, it is a privilege to extend first and foremost warm welcome to our distinguished friends from the French Académie des Sciences. Your presence here and your remarkable contributions to our unique French-Israeli scientific meeting is extremely significant and meaningful for the Israel science community. We are pursuing excellence today. And furthermore, we are perpetuating the great fun, as said in American, or the excitement in scientific endeavor. So let's move to the excitement. Our first speaker is Israel Aumann, Nobel Prize laureate in economics, and he will address a fascinating topic, why consciousness?
Three questions in life science. The three questions are what, how, and why. What? What are we discussing? How? How does it work? What's the mechanism? And why is what purpose does it serve? Okay. Now, we give an example, digestion. What is it? What do we mean by digestion? We mean transforming food to a state the body can use. How? How does it work? Well, we chew, the food goes to the stomach, there are stomach juices, it goes to the intestines, all right, then it's absorbed into the blood, then there's waste disposal, okay? The mechanism of digestion. Why? Why is digestion necessary? Well, it's for energy. We have to ingest food in order to get energy, to run around, to do experiments, yes, to grow when we're children. You have vitamins, other vital ingredients for body functions. That is why we need to eat and to digest in order to fulfill these functions. So those are the three questions: what, how, and why. So let's address them in turn. What is consciousness? What do I mean by consciousness? Digestion is relatively simple to answer, yes? Okay? That's why I started with that, okay? But consciousness, not so easy, okay? What is consciousness? So, it's the ability to experience, to see, hear, smell, taste, touch and be touched, experience physical pleasure or pain. That is part of consciousness. It's not all of it, okay? But that is part of it. Experience, actually experiencing these things. It's the experience, it's the ability to feel. So that's desire. You want something. That's a function of consciousness. Suffer. And here I don't mean suffer pain. That was in the previous category. I mean suffer because you're upset about something, okay? Love. Hate. Be excited. Glad or sad. Pleased or pained. Those are all functions of consciousness. And there are probably more under the category of feeling. And there is the ability to think and to intend. It's the ability to act purposefully, to carry out intentions. There's volition. I want to do something and I do it. That's all part of consciousness. Okay? It's not sensing. I'm not talking about sensing. And then when I walk along some of the darker Jerusalem streets on a Friday night, and the light goes on suddenly, yes, because they sensed me walking, but that's not conscious, yes. I'm not talking about sensing, okay? I'm talking about the conscious experience, okay? So that is what consciousness is, all right? Now let's get to the second question. Remember, we had three questions: what, how, and why. The three basic questions. I got this from Ernst Mayr, and maybe it dates me, as I read his book in 1981. There's hardly anybody in the room that's old. That is that old. But Ernst Mayr said those basically he concentrated on how and why, and I added the what, because you really need it for consciousness. So how does consciousness work? How does it work? Yes. What's the mechanism that leads us to be conscious? How does it work? Well, we have absolutely no idea. No idea. It's the last great enigma of science. Okay, I think we've solved everything. When I was a child, life was a mystery. I think Ada mentioned Schrödinger's book about what is life, okay? So that was a question which was very apt about in 1945, when I was a child, okay? I was 15 years old at that time. And people didn't understand what life is. They couldn't define it. What does it mean? Now, I think with the advent of DNA and ribosomes and messenger RNA and all that, we have an understanding of what life, of how life works, okay? How it works, what the mechanism of life is. I think we have a good understanding of that. But we have absolutely no idea of how consciousness works. How? The how is a big problem. What are the difficulties? Consciousness is totally subjective. I can be sure of consciousness only in myself. Okay? I think that Bhatia is conscious also, but I'm not sure. It's something subjective. I experience it myself. You can't measure it. You can't measure somebody else's experience. But it's the only phenomenon of which I'm really sure. Okay? Science fiction stories about a brain lying on the table with needles in it and it's fed all kinds of things. I'm not sure of anything else, but I'm sure that I'm conscious. That I'm sure of. There's nothing with which it compares. Okay? You can, the blood circulation could be compared with plumbing, yes, with a system you could compare it that way, but consciousness, there's nothing like it. It seems unlikely that a computer can be conscious. But how is a human different from a computer? Yes, a human is made up out of basically mechanical things. Okay, all that we heard about in the previous session are basically mechanical. Yes? A computer is a basically mechanical thing. So, are some animals conscious? We don't know. Because we really only know about consciousness in ourselves. But there are neurological correlates of consciousness. Okay? We don't know. Let's continue with the how. Some scientists disagree. They perceive no problem with consciousness. They see no essential difference between consciousness and other neurological functions, such as the regulation of breathing or digestion. Consciousness, okay, this is another thing. Okay, we digest, we breathe, we're conscious. Okay. When asked if a computer could in principle be conscious, they reply, why not? This response leaves me dumbfounded, and I can only conjecture that they themselves are not conscious. Yes. A deaf person can't understand what experiencing music is, yes? He can understand the physics of it. So if they think that they see the neurological correlates of consciousness and they think that that's it, yeah? Well, I conjecture that they themselves are not conscious. To me, it seems clear that no combination of silicon chips and wires could possibly experience and feel in the way that I do. Maybe not them, but me. Okay. After the France-Israel Day in Paris last June, where I mentioned the matter of consciousness, I corresponded with Professor Jean-Pierre Changeux, an internationally celebrated expert in the neurology of consciousness. It was a good contact. Huh? I'm glad I went. Yes. Okay. His position is intermediate. He does not agree with what I said before, that we have absolutely no idea of how consciousness works. But he does agree that the matter is far from clear. Okay, that's the how. We took the what and the how. Now let's go to the why. Why consciousness? What purpose does it serve? Okay. Well, what do I mean, what purpose? What evolutionary advantage does it confer? Why did evolution evolve consciousness? Okay, never mind how it works, okay, but why does it work? Why did evolution make consciousness? And the answer that I suggest, and that's really the topic of my talk today, is that enables incentives to operate. What's an incentive? An incentive is something that makes you behave in a certain way that the planner wants you to behave. Okay. For example, the existence of nuclear weapons during the period of the Cold War was an incentive to Russia and America not to go to war with each other, okay? It makes you want to behave the way that the planner wants you to behave. The planner here is evolution, okay? Incentives are the basis of economics. Jim Tobin, who got the Nobel Prize in economics sometimes in the 80s, he was once asked, can you summarize economics in one word? And he said, yes, the word is incentives. Okay? Incentives is what makes the economy go around. And the failure of communist and socialist economies in the last century is due to the fact that they did not provide incentives. Okay? So just as incentives are the basic driving force of society, and in particular of economics, so are they the basic driving force of human life, okay? In particular of consciousness. Okay, let me illustrate that with 3 illustrations. There are 3 basic needs in life. nourishment, reproduction, and self-preservation. Those are the three basic needs. Each of these three basic needs calls for performing highly complex tasks, especially in human beings. Hardwiring these tasks, if it was a computer, okay, programming these these tasks into a computer is difficult to imagine. Consciousness enables the operation of incentives that motivate the individual to perform the tasks on his own. He wants to perform them, okay? He wants to do the tasks, to learn how to do the tasks and to do them. And so he does it, not the hard wiring. And so it eliminates the need for hard wiring. Let's look at the three basic needs in turn. Nourishment, food. Food is required for energy, for growth, and for providing vital ingredients for bodily functions. But people do not eat for that reason, okay? They don't eat because they say, hey, let's get some energy, all right? That's not, sometimes they do, sometimes, but very rarely. That's not the people. They eat because they're hungry and or because they enjoy food, okay? Now, those are not, people can be satisfied, not hungry, and then they come to a lunch or a dinner at the Academy, and they enjoy the food, and they eat anyway. So those are two different things, okay? Hunger is painful. Enjoying food is pleasant, okay? So you are motivated to eat by hunger and by the enjoyment of food. Both constitute incentives to consume food. And, like we said, incentives are impossible without consciousness, okay? You can't have an incentive without consciousness. You can't feel hungry if you're not conscious. If you're unconscious, you can't feel hungry. A computer can't be hungry, I think, okay? Okay? I mean, maybe you could imitate hunger, but you wouldn't get people to want, to desire to eat, okay? Without consciousness, incentives cannot work. Food, continued. Obtaining food is enormously complicated. We must choose the food to buy, we must shop for it, we must store it, clean it, cook it, serve it. We must choose and buy ovens, closets, refrigerators, sinks, stoves, microwaves, pots, pans, utensils. All those things we have to do, yes? And we have to earn the money to buy the food, okay? And the pots and pans and refrigerators and so on. And acquire the skills required for earning the money. We have to go to the university, yes? We have to get a job. And to earn the money, yes, we have to do something to earn the money, and to put all this into a computer and tell people, a computer will tell people exactly how to respond to each situation. You know, maybe, but I don't think so, okay? What makes all this work are the incentives. Hunger and food enjoyment. That's what makes all of it work, yeah? And the incentives cannot operate without consciousness. Okay, what's the second need is reproduction, sex. Sex is required for reproduction, which is the driving force of the evolutionary process. You can't have evolution without reproduction. But people do not have sex for that reason, okay? Usually not, yes. Again, sometimes maybe a man will say to a woman, let's make a baby. But that's not the reason usually that people have sex. They have sex because they enjoy it. It's pleasant. The pleasure is an incentive to have sex. And it is enabled by consciousness. You can't have pleasure without consciousness. Without consciousness, incentives cannot work. Sex continued. Having sex, like getting food, is very complicated. It doesn't sound complicated, but it is. Okay? Choosing a date, getting her or him to go out with you, choosing what to do on the date, buying clothes, giving presents, earning the money to pay for the foregoing, and again, acquiring the skills required to earn the money, and so on. What makes all this work is the incentive, enjoyment of sex or the sex drive. And the incentive cannot operate without consciousness. Let's go to the third basic need, self-preservation. An example of incentives in self-preservation is the phenomenon of pain. Pain calls attention to a problem in the body, something that needs to be fixed. People who cannot feel pain, and there are such people, are in deep trouble and usually do not survive long. Pain provides an incentive to fix the problem. Without consciousness, incentives cannot work. Consciousness enables you to feel pain. Self-preservation continued. We have 2 slides for each of the 3 basic needs. More generally, self-preservation, including self-defense, like getting food and sex, is a highly complex process which is enabled by incentives. In this case, the incentive is the desire to stay alive, okay? Not like in the other 2 cases where you don't have sex in order to reproduce and you don't eat food in order to get energy. But in this case, the desire to stay alive, to continue experiencing. Both desire and experience are functions of consciousness. They are impossible without consciousness. Okay? So I gave you 3 examples, but these are 3 basic important examples. Conclusion. The purpose of consciousness, the why, its evolutionary function, is to enable the operation of incentives. That's the purpose of consciousness. I propose to you, okay? You don't have to buy it, but okay. Generally, the incentives work indirectly through mechanisms such as hunger, pain, and enjoyment of sex. Not directly. We do not eat because we want to be nourished, nor in general have sex because we want children. Thus, to supply our needs efficiently, evolution developed 2 things. One is consciousness, including desire and volition acting purposefully, and the second is mechanisms. What to desire and what to avoid, okay? Hunger, hunger and enjoyment of food and pain and enjoyment of sex. Though pain is you want to avoid pain. Hunger you want to avoid. Enjoyment of food you want to eat. You enjoy food. So simultaneously, parallel, the evolution developed these 2 things, the mechanisms and the consciousness that enables the mechanisms to work. The above does not begin to answer the how question. Well, I have no idea. Maybe some people in the audience disagree. I have no idea how consciousness works. The bottom line, let's go back to the title of my talk, Why Consciousness? So the bottom of the line is because it's at the bottom of the slide, okay? It's to enable incentives to operate. Toda. Merci. You have to stop applauding in 13 seconds. Okay.
Many thanks, Israel. It was remarkable. I heard from distinguished physical and biological scientists lectures on consciousness, and after 2 hours they didn't define the phrase.
Okay.
So much.
Question.
Questions, comments, the young generation first?
Okay.
I don't need it. That's all right.
שמה זה עם היד הגבוה. Okay. Yes. Okay.
So you said that the evolution is to incentivize us to essentially survive and reproduce. So if I can observe these drives in other animals, can I assume they are conscious as well?
Okay, I raised that question in the talk. I can go back and show it to you. I said, are some animals conscious? And the answer was, okay, sorry. I said, are animals conscious? And I had the adjective some before the animals. Are some animals conscious? I think bacteria probably are not conscious, okay? Or one-cell organisms, I doubt it. But some animals may be conscious, okay? And I don't know. I want to point out that animals have a much less complicated life than human beings. It's possible that animals or certain animals are not conscious because they don't have to buy refrigerators. Yes, okay. But you're asking me if animals are conscious. I don't even know if you're conscious. Okay, more questions.
More.
Yeah.
Here on the left.
It's related to his question. Maybe bacteria aren't conscious because it's easier to hardwire them, right? So where do you draw the line, right? Maybe rats are conscious. Maybe it's only from cats above.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yes, I don't know. I said, are some animals conscious here? Let me bring it back. Here, the bottom two lines. Are some animals conscious? We don't know. I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't know where to draw the line. I don't know where it is. Okay. Some more over there. There's a question there. Oh, okay.
There is a question here.
Yeah, okay.
Last chance.
Hi, you say that
Please.
you don't believe that computers can be consciousness, but there are some people who do. From where these differences between you comes from? Is it from where you understand the evidence, or is it just a feeling?
I think it's just a feeling. I think there's no evidence to consciousness. We have a lot. Professor Changeux has brought a lot of neural correlates. What goes on when you perform a conscious function? What goes on in your brain? Okay, but there's no evidence. Yes, there's no. There's nothing. It's like I said. There's nothing that can relate or compare to experiencing. Yes, I see you over here. I experience it. Yes, I can't imagine a computer experiencing. What do they? I don't understand them. I really don't understand them. Yes, I have some good friends, Nati Lineal, for example, or Benji Weiss. Yes, good friends. Yeah, they say we don't understand what you're talking about. Yes, I don't understand what they're talking about. It's a complete break.
But the computer plays chess better than the world
Yeah,
champion.
that doesn't take consciousness, okay? Yeah, not only, wait, I'll tell you a story. Not only the computer plays chess better, but it plays Go better. And chess is very different from Go. In what respect? The computer was programmed to play chess good. So the programmer basically understands what he told the computer to do. In Go, the programmer doesn't understand what he told the computer to do. The computer learned by itself. It learned, okay? So that's very different.
And
but those are not functions of consciousness. Consciousness is experiencing, is feeling, is desiring, okay? Nili, you had a question.
Well, I would like to hold the possible division between instincts and incentives.
Yes.
Are people not motivated by instincts or operate automatically due to their instincts?
Yes, I think there is instinct, yes, but I think incentives, yes. I think your instinct there's no instinct to go to the university or to become president of the Academy. Yes, there's no instinct to that, yes. You make a living that way, yes, okay. And you have to make a living in order to get food, self-preservation, and so on, okay. Yes, Avram.
What about more sophisticated, higher pleasures like enjoying the music of Mozart or reading a very good book? Where is the incentive here?
Yeah, there is. I think those are very good examples. Mozart, I don't like especially, but Bach, let's take that. Okay. Enjoying Bach, yes. What's that good for? Okay. What do you need to enjoy Bach for? Yes. Well, I brought the three basic needs. Okay, the three basic needs: nourishment, sex, and self-preservation. Those are the basic needs. There may be different needs. There may be different needs, and I think music is one of them. Definitely, music is one of them. It may have to do with dancing, rhythm, dancing may be related to love, to sex, maybe, I don't know. But maybe. But anyway, I can answer that there certainly are other things that human beings do, which are also very complex, and which they also desire, and also experience, and which are not related to those three things. You're right.
Ada.
Okay.
Ada.
Ah.
One of your three things was reproduction. Now you call it sex, but I want to say that reproduction can happen without sex, yet people really want it.
Reproduction can happen without sex, in other words, by extra.
Don't you know?
What?
Don't you know that it's possible?
Yes, I know it's possible. I know it's possible.
Yet people want it, although.
Yeah, and I especially said twice that usually we have sex. We don't have usually we don't have sex because it's pleasant or because of the sex drive. We do have sex because it's pleasant and because of the sex drive. Sometimes it's in order to get children. So
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
I didn't ask about this. I just say that there is a major wish of human beings for reproduction, and not always it comes with sex. Still, they want reproduction.
Yeah,
They-
I agree. I agree that usually I entirely agree. They want reproduction, and but uh, but uh, but they don't. That's not the main reason for having sex. In other words, the evolution developed the sex drive basically in order that people should have children, yes, in order to reproduce. Now, there are other ways of reproducing, and sometimes people do want to have children. Yes, that's true.
Last question, perceptive and deep. The young generation, please.
What is the correlation between being conscious and acting rationally, according to them?
It's very strong. Uh, um, okay. What's the relationship between? Okay, sorry, I have to go here. Okay. Okay, don't be angry. Yes. The usual, we have to talk about the term rationality. I belong to a research center which is called the Center for the Study of Rationality. Of course, that doesn't mean that we are rational. Yes, we only study rationality. An entomologist is not an ant. Yes. Okay. So we study rationality. So I have some ideas about this. There are two uses of the word rationality. One is logical thinking, uh, logical thinking, scientific thinking. That yes, that is, to follow that kind of activity. The other meaning, and that's not the meaning used in economics. One of the main things we study in the Center for the Study of Rationality is economics. The meaning used in economics is that people do pursue their goals as best they can, given their information. That's the definition of rationality in economics. It's quite different from the usual everyday meaning. For example, I have a student, he actually works here in Van Leer now. His name is Uri Weiss, and he said that they're really opposite, because if a black cat crosses your path, if a black cat crosses your path and you spit, yeah, are you being rational or not? Yeah. So in accordance with the usual everyday definition, you're being highly irrational. You're following superstitions, yeah, and there's no scientific basis for what you're doing. But by the economic definition, you are highly rational. Why? Because you want to avoid bad luck. And according to your information, spitting avoids the bad luck. Yes. So you're highly rational. So according to the economic definition of rationality, not the everyday definition, the answer to your question is yes. There's a high correlation, because you want, desire is a function of consciousness, and you want to pursue your goals as best you can given your information. Your goals are what you desire. It's almost the same thing.